I want to start off with, so when you talk about innovation as a combination of old ideas, a new combination of old ideas, and in the opening chapters of the book, you talk about the Statue of Liberty and Picasso and the ice cream lady. That's one of my favorites. And so maybe lay out for our listeners what you mean by that, the new combination of old ideas.
Yeah, so this is my definition of innovation is certainly very familiar to you and strategy. It's I essentially, in a sense, stole my definition of, or strategically copied, as I like to say, the definition of innovation from, I guess, the likes of Adam Smith and then Schumpeter, and then the way strategy thinks of innovation. So the way I think of innovation is a new combination of existing elements. But the part I focus on is how do you create those combinations? Like, how does our mind come to create those combinations? So maybe what I'll do is maybe pick one of those. And I guess which one would you prefer? Should I pick Lady Liberty or ice cream?
Oh, I think ice cream.
Okay. So, yeah, I think ice cream is good too. She's one of my favorite heroes too. So ice cream making was really the fact that you can eat ice cream every day in your house and can afford it is thanks to a woman by the name of Nancy Johnson. And she was an ordinary woman who lived in the 1800s in Philadelphia. She was the wife of a chemistry professor. She herself was a missionary and an abolitionist. She was not the person who invented ice cream. Ice cream already existed. In fact, George Washington paid $190 for a bucket of ice cream when he was in the White House. So it existed. It was just very, very expensive. And the reason why it was expensive was that it was really a cumbersome, difficult thing to make. And so they would take a big bowl and they would fill it with ice. And then they would put a smaller bowl in it and fill it with milk and then stir. And it was getting harder and harder to stir as you stirred. So it's backbreaking labor. It would melt as you were stirring it and it would form lumps. So it was really tough. And so what Nancy Johnson does is she asks the question, how do we make ice cream making accessible? So essentially, so it's easy to make. This is what are the three big challenges to that? Well, how do you keep it cold, like while you're making it? How do you make it less backbreaking labor? And how do you keep it from forming lumps? And she says, well, if you can solve those three problems, you can make ice cream affordable. So how do you keep it cold? Well, first of all, let's make ice cream in a much bigger vessel. So let's take a big water pail, which had already been around for a while. And now let's fill that with ice. And now let's put the milk in something that'll keep it cold. Now, back then, men would regularly go to the tavern and drink beer, and they would serve the beer in a pewter mug to keep it cold. And I do mean men here because women back then weren't allowed to go to taverns. And so she said, well, why don't we put milk in a pewter vessel? Now, how do we stir it and make it, how do we make the stirring process easier to do? Well, what if we connect the spatulas to a hand grinder, which was used for grinding spices and coffee? That'll make the turning faster. But still, it'll form lumps. So how do we reduce that? And so this is where the speculation comes in. She created spatulas with holes in it. And we think she got the idea maybe from some of the runaway slaves, because she used to be a part of the Underground Railroad. And the slaves that would have come from the sugar plantations, and they were often the ones who were more likely to run away because their life expectancy was lower. They would use these spatulas with holes in it when making molasses, when you're mixing hot water with sugar to prevent the formation of crystals. And so she used those spatulas with holes in it to mix milk with sugar. Now, if you put these pieces together, you have what the Library of Congress dubbed a disruptive technology in 1843.